Live, laugh, and love your truth and read books, okay? That's my message to the world. Hey, welcome to my video. If you're from my Instagram, I love you, and if you're not from my Instagram, love you all the same. Welcome to today's video in which we will ponder the question whether or not the series Ice Planet Barbarians is worth a read. So the book series is very long, but I don't want this video to be, so if you're a fan of smut or romance novels, then I think that this might be your vibe, and if that's the case, then please keep watching. So little disclaimer as always before we begin, I don't want to bash books or authors at all. I am here to tell you my honest opinion about books that I have both purchased and read, but with that being said, I don't think that it's necessary to be rude or snarky, so I'm not going to do that, and if you want to participate in this conversation and have a different opinion than me, you're very welcome and encouraged to do so, but please be mindful and respectful of everybody, all the authors, all of the books, everybody's feelings in the comments down below, because I really don't want to create a negative space here. And one other thing that I don't want to do is ever discourage you personally, you who are watching this, from reading any type of book. Even if I, for example, mark a book as DNF and you wanted to read it, I really highly encourage you to do so anyway, just because reading is very subjective, and I might not have liked a book for one reason, and then you might love the book for that exact same reason. So I never want to discourage you. If you want to read something, definitely do so, whether or not I say it's quote unquote good, because at the end of the day, who am I? Absolutely nobody. And even if I say something is not good, that just means that it wasn't good for me. You still might love it. So period. Live, laugh, and love your truth and read books, okay? That's my message to the world. Okay, so now with that little disclaimer out of the way, we can begin. I want to say that whenever I make any type of bookish videos here on my channel, I try, emphasis on try, okay, to make them as spoiler-free as possible. Or if I do, I'm gonna give a spoiler warning before saying what I need to say, so you can skip that. Okay, so now to be really real with you, the extremely short and out of context answer for this question, for me personally, is no, the series is not worth reading. However, let me explain, okay? So as I'm reading book number 1, I find out that there's book number 2. I go, oh cute, love that. So a quick Google search revealed to me that there were 21 books, and now before I began, I looked it up on Goodreads and it said that there were 19. So we will go with 19, because even if 19 is the final number, 19 in my opinion is just, I don't know, probably 12 books too many for me to actually read the whole series front to back. But that's just my personal opinion. I love, for example, a 3 or 4 book series. I have also done 7 and 8 in the past, but I have never gone above 8, and full disclosure, I haven't done so at this point either. So that's another reason why the immediate answer is no, it isn't worth the read, because I only got to book 8 and I stopped. And as of right now, I have no plans on continuing on reading the series. However, does that mean that my overall experience with this series was bad or unenjoyable? Absolutely not. The books that I did read, I had a blast, and I'm gonna explain more on that in a second. But before I do that, I just want to give you a quick little synopsis of what this series basically is. So the series is about girls who get kidnapped from all over America, and they get kidnapped by aliens. So obviously they're all terrified bad things are happening to them in that spaceship, and one girl even gets a little implant in her ear so that she could understand the aliens and communicate with them on behalf of everybody basically. And now at some point, this spaceship starts malfunctioning, and it does end up crashing. So at this point, the aliens do decide that it would be better for them to return from whence they came and go back and retrieve the girls when they're able. The girls are obviously terrified. They don't know where they crash landed, but they also can't sit around in the spaceship and wait for the aliens to come back for them. So they decide to venture out and discover where actually they are. They are getting a little hopeful. They decide, okay, maybe we're back on Earth. Who knows? Let's go find out. So at this point, one specific girl decides that she's gonna be the first one to venture out, see where she is, maybe find some food, maybe find some help, and she's gonna return back to the other girls and the spaceship when she's able. As soon as she steps out of the aircraft, she discovers that Toto, we are not in Kansas anymore, and by Kansas, I fully mean Earth, and it's a very strange, cold land. It's called Not Hot in this book, or rather in this series, I'm sorry. And at this point, she stumbles upon a lot of weird and strange creatures who she doesn't know what they are, she doesn't know their species, anything about them, but she also stumbles upon an alien race who at this point, she's not sure what to feel about. But as the series continue, we find out that this is in fact a very friendly race of aliens composed of mostly male aliens who have lost a lot of their female tribe and can't procreate anymore. So naturally, seeing all these girls crash landed onto their world, they're very excited about the chance of procreation. Now with at this point, I do realize as I'm saying this how creepy that sounds, but this is a very brief rundown. Anyways, the series is about life on this planet for the girls and also for the alien race, how they all handle it, how they all communicate, because that's also a very important factor and a very interesting detail. Because if you remember, that one girl has an implant, but the other girls couldn't understand the first aliens and couldn't understand this tribe either. So they really don't know what is happening and they sort of have to get along and get by using gestures and such. But yeah, basically it's about life on Not Hot for everybody. Now, another important detail is that the girls at a certain point decide, okay, well, we're probably never gonna come back to Earth. And so it's either life with the first aliens that abducted us and treated us horribly, or life with this new tribe who seems to be treating us nice and they're also not forcing us to procreate or do anything that we don't want to do. So naturally, they go with the latter. And so once they all decide that they want to stay, they also discover that they're gonna need a parasite in order to survive on this strange world. And now, of course, as you can imagine, some girls are like, well, I guess this is my new reality, let me do it. And other girls immediately are like, I really don't want to do this, but what other choice do I have? It's either this or die. And so eventually they all decide to take on this parasite. Now, this parasite is created to make them mate with each other and procreate, which means that usually one girl and another member of the alien tribe resonate and sort of recognize each other as mates. The resonance, that feeling will never go away though, but whether or not they want to act on it, it's on them. However, obviously, as you can imagine, the pull to act on it is very strong. So basically that's the premise. Now, all of these books revolve around each individual couple and how they handle mating with each other and what they want to do with it. But basically it is a romance and smut novel or slash series. So you can sort of fill in the blanks. Now, more specifically for me, when I started reading this series, I read book 1 and I was like, oh, this is so fun. I was giggling, kicking my feet like a schoolgirl, having an incredible time reading. And I think I also mentioned it in one of my little monthly book club videos that I do. If you want to check it out, you can do so here. But basically, yeah, I rated it 5 stars and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep and continue on reading this series. And I did, again, up until book 8. I also rated book 2 5 stars. And then from there, every other book I rated 3 or 4 stars max. Now, I'm gonna pop a little graphic right here and you can pause to read that. But basically, I think it is important so that you can better understand why I rate books the way that I do. But yeah, book 1 and 2, I would recommend to anybody. I think in both of them, you get thrown into this whole new world, which is very fun. And for me specifically, book 1 was also the first book that I read that was about aliens. You know, usually when I read supernatural romances, it's normally about werewolves or vampires or what have you, but I haven't read anything alien-esque up until that point. And so being thrown into this new world with new rules was very fun and exciting for me. The world building was also interesting. Books 1 and 2 had a lot of interesting twists and turns. And book 2, I would recommend especially for my enemies to lovers girlies because it was top tier. And some of the smutty scenes in both books had me physically blushing a little bit. Now, mind you, they're not too debaucherous or scandalous, but they do paint a really nice mental picture, if you will. Those 2 books literally turned me out. I think that the first book is probably in the running for my top book of the year at this point, and I have read a lot of fun and good books this year. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, if that's the case, how come you didn't finish the entire series if it was that good? Now, in my opinion, the series felt a little safe after a certain point, and it also started to feel very repetitive. Because again, book 1, it's about one girl and one alien. Book 2, same thing. Book 3, same thing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's all about different couples, of course, but basically the same story. And after a certain point, once we've finished with all the world building and the initial excitement sort of fades away, that's all that is left. Now, with that being said, I would recommend that if you want to read any of these books, definitely, basically whichever book you pick up, it's gonna be a fun read. I haven't rated any of these books 2 stars or below, and a 3-star read is definitely for me in my book a good solid read. So essentially, whichever individual book you pick up and decide you want to read, I don't think you're gonna have a bad time. But with that being said, if you want to read all 19 or 21 of them, I think it starts to feel a little safe and repetitive, or at least it did for me. I do have to mention though, in the last book that I did read, something substantial happened, or at least started happening to their world. So the author definitely tried to switch it up and stopped playing it safe in a way, but that still wasn't enough for me personally to continue reading like 11 more books or whatever. Another thing that I actually did really like about this series is that every book has its own little micro trope. So for example, like I said, book number 2 is enemies to lovers. So that really was something that I did enjoy. It wasn't every book was the complete same thing. It did have its ups and downs, twists and turns, and slight changes. But for me, that wasn't enough to read a series for 19 and or 21 books. But again, that is just my opinion. So in conclusion, I would say that it wasn't enough for me to read this whole series, but I definitely am in love with books number 1 and 2, and I would recommend them to anybody. And also I would recommend that you read any one of those books as a standalone, because you will be able to catch up fast, and I'm pretty sure that you will have a fun time doing so. I want to hear from you, especially if you had read one and or more books in this series. Did you finish the whole series? Maybe if you did, I would love to hear from you and your thoughts. Or are you like me? Let me know. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you so much. And if you liked this video, then please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.